We've got breaking injury news, and it's not good for the Dallas Mavericks. Could have some repercussions on the trade market as well. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe right here to the channel. We keep you up to date on everything going on around the NBA. And right now, only about 20% of you watching this are actually subscribed. So the other 80%, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button. All right, so here's what's going on. According to Shams Charania, the Mavs will be without Dereck Lively now, has sustained a small fracture in his foot and is expected to miss 2 to 3 months. Yikes. Lively has been sidelined since January 14th, has developed into a Mavs cornerstone as their starting center, averaging 9.1 points, 7.8 rebounds, 2.6 assists, 1.7 blocks, is now set to miss multiple months. Now, the Dallas Mavericks have already been hit by a number of injuries, just like a bunch of teams around the NBA have been hit hard by injuries. But you look at where the Mavs currently sit in the Western Conference. They're the 7th seed right now. Last year went to the NBA Finals, the Mavs did, but currently a play-in team. And again, they've been hit hard by injuries. We've seen Luka has been out. Kyrie Irving has been out and come back. Now they're going to be without their starting center in Dereck Lively. They really found something in Lively, a really exciting lob threat for Luka, gives them a great center tandem with Daniel Gafford, and we'll talk more about him in just a minute and what this all means for the trade market. But the Mavericks really have something with Dereck Lively, and I don't know that Maxi Kleber is able to really help with that situation that much. He can, shoot a little bit from the outside. Has not shot the ball well this year, but this likely puts a lot more pressure on Daniel Gafford to be the guy in the middle for the Mavs moving forward. Again, they don't want to go into the play-in tournament. They want to be a proper playoff team and then go from there. But right now, underperforming a little bit relative to expectations. But the West, it's a very, very tight race. And right now, the sentiment is that anybody can come out of the Western Conference. OKC, they are far and away the best team in the West. They are the likeliest team to come out. You look at their point differential plus almost 13. They're in a tier of their own. That's the bottom line. The Oklahoma City Thunder are in their own tier in the Western Conference. After that, though, it's wide open. Yes, Houston's been good. Memphis has been good. But are they scaring teams away from making a push towards the top? Hell no, they absolutely are not. So the Western Conference seen as wide open. The Dallas Mavericks, could this push them to be more buyers on the trade market coming up with the February 6th trade deadline? That is certainly something to consider. Now, for Dallas, I want to get into the effect this is going to have on the trade market because I do think this changes things. But first, let me give a shout out to our sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. Prize Picks has an awesome selection of daily fantasy sports. Super, super easy to go play. And when you use our code Bulletin, number one, that tells them that you came from us. You guys can, again, use the link in the description down below. Use that code Bulletin. They know that you came from us. And on top of that, you get a great deal. You get a guaranteed $50 when you play your first $5. So make sure you guys go check that out on Prize Picks. We'll make a few picks here. Walker Kessler, does he get 9 points? Does we do better than that? Less than that? What about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 25.5 points against Utah? Trying to stay away from that one just because I do think it's a high likelihood, given that the Utah Jazz, one of the worst teams in the NBA, taking on the best, could wind up being a blowout, which means we could see starters play limited minutes. But Anthony Edwards against the Mavs, he's going to get plenty of shots up. If he's hitting the threes at a very high volume from three, and I'm going to gamble that he will take and make enough threes to hit 27.5 points and get more than that. So we'll go with Ant. And then let's take a look here. Mike Conley, 4.5 points, the veteran playing on the Wolves side. Yeah, I know he hasn't been in the starting lineup for a bit here, but I think he can do that. We've got the little goblet here, meaning it is an easier projection to potentially win. I always like that. And then let's go take a look. Who's been really good? John Collins. I know it's a tough draw against OKC, but 21.5 points, rebounds, and assists. I think he can do that. So I'm going to go with those three. I'll go with those three. John Collins, I'll go with Mike Conley, and Anthony Edwards. Tonight, if you guys want to play along again, use the link in the description down below, and don't forget to use that code Bulletin. All right, let's get back to what's going on here with the Dallas Mavericks and what they're going to do now at the trade deadline. So once again, the Mavs in a very, very tight race in the Western Conference. They don't want to be in the play-in. They want to continue to push to move up. But again, they've already been missing a number of players, and the West, it's simply unforgiving. So what do the Mavs do? Well, there was a rumor just the other day that the Mavs might actually look to move Daniel Gafford. The thought being that they already have the big man position kind of filled down with Dereck Lively. You could move Daniel Gafford, who maybe is a bit of a luxury on this team, and then turn him into a perimeter defender. Now, I don't really buy that Gafford was particularly available, because I do think that he's an important tandem player to have with Dereck Lively. I do think the Mavs could use more perimeter defense, but if they're going to go get that, it's probably going to be something like a Herb Jones type player, which, by the way, Herb Jones is not available, but I think that's the level of defensive player they'd be looking for, and most likely they're probably not going to get that with Daniel Gafford, definitely not getting Herb Jones. So I don't see it as a situation where the Mavs are going to be using Daniel Gafford to go buy on, I don't know, like a Davion Mitchell or someone like that level of defensive player. Just doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, now they're definitely not moving Daniel Gafford. Now that Dereck Lively is out for at least 2 months, maybe 3 months, that he's going to be out of action. Now, I mean, here we are. It's almost February. So really, if we get to 3 months here, we could be talking about like season's done for Dereck Lively. We could be looking at playoffs for him to come back if we're getting to 3 months here. So that's the concern now for the Dallas Mavericks. Can you get him back in time for the regular season, which means you can no longer be a seller at the big man position. Even if the right deal comes along with perimeter defense, you just don't have enough bigs. Dwight Powell is okay, but is he really going to hold things down for you in the middle? No, there's a reason why you went and spent a first to get Daniel Gafford last year, because Dwight Powell isn't enough to get the job done. Maxi Kleber, not been great this year. So now Daniel Gafford is about as important as he's ever been to the Dallas Mavericks. They're not going to move him. In fact, this could flip Dallas into being buyers at the trade deadline at the big position. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to go spend up and get a super expensive player. No, but could they make a move using, say, Dwight Powell's contract, $4 million, $4 million player option for next year? Could you stack that with somebody else and go try to add a player, add a big that can be a true rotation piece for you, at least filling in for Lively for the time being? Could you go get into the mix for, say, a Robert Williams or someone like that? The Houston Rockets, another team that are reported to be in pursuit of him. What about Jonas Valanciunas with the Washington Wizards? Could you make a call there? I'd certainly be doing that if I was the Dallas Mavericks, making a call on Jonas. Could you somehow flip Maxi Kleber plus some draft capital to the Wizards in exchange for Jonas, who's under contract for next year as well? The Wizards, nothing changes for them salary-wise. They could pick up some draft capital, and the Mavs would get a better fitting center, or certainly a center able to play more minutes right now in Jonas. So I do think that could be the biggest ramification here, beyond just the Mavs and their playoff situation potentially being put in jeopardy. It's, do the Mavs now pivot? And knowing that the West is wide open, do they now pivot to, instead of being a potential seller with Daniel Gafford on the center trade market, to being a buyer on the market because of the absence of Dereck Lively? Potentially, again, depending on how long. If it's only 2 months, okay, then we're looking, mid-March, end of March, he'd be back right before the playoffs. But if this is a 3-month thing, we might not see Dereck Lively until the postseason. And in terms of getting to the postseason where the Mavs want to be, maybe they need to go pick up another big to play alongside or to play in place of Daniel Gafford when he needs a sub. That may be something that the Mavs need to go do. Again, they're right there in the thick of things in the West. It certainly has them in the season they hoped. They haven't had good injury luck. They're 3-7 in their last 10. A little bit of pressure on the Mavs, and that February 6th trade deadline, it's coming up real quick. Everybody, let me know in the comment section what you think Dallas should do. Who should they target if they're going to go try to add a center before the trade deadline? Don't forget to subscribe right here to the channel, and go take a look. Latest video all about Jimmy Butler and the situation that's gone on with him now that the Phoenix Suns have made a very creative move to free up draft capital. I break down everything that's going on with that situation, so go check that out right now.